What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Zcash today, ZEC USD. It is the 31st and final day of October, and here we are sitting at about $363 with about 11 hours left in the day. We went right down to the area that we were looking for, man. I did expect that we go a little bit lower, to be completely fair, but we were calling for something just below $300. So that's pretty perfect right there. And immaculate reaction, absolutely immaculate reaction. We look at this on a 1 hour time frame, positive. Just, I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's like the market makers were listening to me. They're like, okay, he thinks it's going to go down to 295 to 280. All right, well, we're just going to rip it right here. But for most of this, we were saying probably something just below $300. It could. We even said it could be at 299, and it was literally at 298. So, anyways, hit the like button and subscribe. I don't know if I said that yet, but we have moved up. We have seen new relative highs, and I'm sure a lot of you are wondering right now: is this thing doing exactly what Bitcoin's doing? Are we just getting slightly higher highs, and now we're going to come back down? I don't think so. I don't think so, but we might get tied up here for a second. Let's look at the short-term stuff. I do believe, and I want to be very clear, I do believe Zcash has more growth to go. But while Bitcoin's figuring itself out, while the rest of the market's figuring itself out, it might be harder for you to move up. With that being said as well, we have seen the markets, go through some turmoil and trying to figure themselves out, and Zcash still continues to climb. So Zcash is kind of doing its own thing right now. So maybe it can move up without the rest of the markets, and if it does, while the rest of the markets are chilling, that could actually be a sign that crypto as a whole is healthy. That there is something going on here that the average bear or bear market enthusiast is just not seeing. Let's look at the short term stuff and then we'll zoom out. Okay, looking at the 1 hour time frame. I mean, that's crazy. That looks very mechanical in nature, doesn't it? That's like very mechanical movement right there. It looks false. It looks forced. This is like natural. This seems forced. Anyways, 1 hour time frame here. RSI nice and overbought, bouncing off the oversold zone. Overall, a very positive RSI. Getting below the 50 is not ideal necessarily, but you don't seem to really care. You don't seem to really care. This is actually more of an area to bounce than the 50 is typically for you on the 1 hour, so that's fine. I think that this is fine here. Let's see, what about the MACD just crossed red, but that's okay. Stochastics are right at the 50. You're kind of at an area to bounce on every single indicator that I'm looking at here on the 1 hour, so let's just look at you from a fib perspective. It would be weird to bounce here. 56 minutes left in this hour. Wouldn't it be nice if we just went right down to the 382 and then bounced from there immediately? Like, what if we did that all this hour? We went down here and then we came back up and closed and then we started to move higher. That'd be nice. $352, $353, something, right there. That range is the next target area. You oftentimes do wick below the 382. You oftentimes do wick a little bit below it. So, between 342 and 352, maybe go down to like 348, you wick there and then you close back up above. But in these kind of strong movements, these are the times when you do just bounce right off of 382. So something at $350 itself, that's what I'd expect for support. If that doesn't hold, or let's say it does hold, but then you reject the 236 and you come back down, if you were to go lower, then we're looking at $342 to $324, something in that range. If $324 doesn't hold, then we could talk about prices that potentially go lower than this low even, but we're not there yet. I don't think we're going to get there. We'll see, but that's not my perspective, right? My perspective is Zcash here consolidated, it broke out, you successfully back tested your prior resistance point and have continued higher, right? You literally, why is it successful? It's because not only did you back test prior resistance here, not only did you back test that perfectly, but the reaction you had was phenomenal, and it literally took you to higher prices. So again, the thought here being that you broke out of this consolidation range here, this little phase right here. I'm going to delete the fibs because they're annoying me. You back tested it for support, and now you're going to continue, right? The breakout right here hasn't finished. You've got more to go. Okay, let's look at the 4 hour time frame. 4 hour time frame here. Looking at you, zooming in a little bit. The RSI does look sad. I will admit that's not a good look necessarily. You do have bearish divergence, but on the bright side, that bearish divergence has already kind of played out with this move down. You don't need to move lower, but again, from a low here to a high there, it is kind of odd to pull back at all and not hit the 382 when you're below the 236 here. So something at $352, $353, somewhere around there sounds appropriate to me before we start moving higher. Doesn't mean we have to go there, but the RSI definitely is showing some weakness, for being fair, right? Where you were once getting overbought effortlessly, you're now having a hard time getting overbought. On the bright side, you are maintaining this kind of overall upward trajectory with these lows, so that's also a good look. Bouncing off the 40 is nice. Bouncing off the 40, getting above the 60, living predominantly above the 50. We love to see it. So good stuff overall. You can afford to go down a little bit if you want to. Stochastics look like they could come down a little bit as well, and the MACD is just useless here because you're moving sideways. So I don't care that you're green, I don't care that you're red, whatever. It's not really helpful. Daily time frame zooming out a little bit more. Now you do have a more predominant wick than a body today, but that doesn't scare me. You've seen days like that before. You've literally, in the face of death, popped up bullish the next day. You had a very bearish candle here, very big wicks here, and you didn't even go below these days at all. You know what I mean? Like it's really not that big of a deal. Have we had any false wicks? A lot of the time, it looks like these wicks throughout this move have actually been indicative of further consolidation. So depending on how today closes, you might be consolidating more, and that's fine. I don't think that means you go lower than this low, but you could. Understand from here, you guys, you do have higher highs and you do have lower lows. You could be setting up your own megaphone pattern like Bitcoin has over here, right, where you've got lower lows and higher highs. You could be getting set up for your own kind of smaller megaphone pattern. Might be more obvious on the 4-hour time frame, right? And if that is the case, again, we could go down. Just be aware, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. I am not calling for us to go below these lows. I'm just saying if we do, we could find support at 285, 290, somewhere around there. And that's fine if we do. But again, that idea is really only promoted by the fact that there's a large wick here and throughout this range that typically promotes consolidation. That doesn't mean you have to consolidate. You can move up higher, right? Here we had a day where the wick was bigger than the body, and the next day was actually very bullish. So it's not a perfect science there. But if we do continue to consolidate further, that's okay, is really what I'm just saying. We don't have to move up right now. That doesn't mean you're weak. You could even see a lower low than this, and it doesn't mean you're weak. But ultimately, your daily RSI looks really good. Did we look at all the 4-hour indicators? Yeah, we did. Daily RSI looks really good. Stochastics look immaculate, and the MACD is phenomenal as well. So all good things, literally firing at the same time on the daily time frame. I can't imagine that you'll be here for long. We look at this on the weekly time frame and we zoom out. Let's actually go on a chart that has more history. Of course you're getting tied up here, right? Of course you are. That's your last cycle's high. So of course you're getting tied up right here. You've actually already gone above last cycle's high. Technically, high to low here. You back tested the 786. You broke above the 886. Technically, right now, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but technically right now, if I was looking at this chart, if I had no idea what Zcash was, and I was just looking at this chart fresh, you didn't tell me what it was, you gave me this high to low fib, and I could see that it was dating back to 2021 to 2024, very significant fib there. I would say with a very, very high degree of certainty, like 90% or more chance, that you will see a price above $800. You'll see $877 or more before you will ever see prices that are at $260 or lower again. Okay. So you are right now, in other words, you can dilly-dally around here a little bit if you want to, whatever. Go back, go below $300. Who cares? Do it. Whatever, doesn't matter. You are on a path that undoubtedly will take you to $877 or higher. And I really do believe that the or higher option is what's going to be taken. Typically with the 1414 being the next target, that is an area that you actually wick above typically. You just like the 382, how you wick below it and then you come back up to close above it. You wick above the 1414 and then you come back down to close below it. That's also directly in line. Oh, it's not. For some reason, I thought the 1414 was in line with this. Okay, so maybe we do. Maybe you go to the 1414, but perhaps we do stop at the 1272 because it's right there in line with this high. See, that's funny. I thought the 1414 was. So that's more reason to find resistance there. And perhaps you go just a little bit above that. Maybe you do find resistance at like $1,000 or something. Kind of like here, you went just above it here, but nothing too crazy. But that's probably your next target area before you see any kind of significant consolidation. So that's what I'm sticking with. Between $900 and $1,400, something like that, right? Maybe just below $900 for your next target. The weekly RSI is spectacular. The stochastics are as well, and the MACD is as well. You might be thinking, spectacular? What are you talking about, C-Zar? This thing is at a 90 read. That's not spectacular. That's scary. No, no, no. You do your best work when you're at the 90s, man. You do your best work. It's very spectacular. And typically, almost always, whenever you get a reading this deep, even when you come down, there are more to come, right? Because with this strong of a move, you really don't need that much of a pullback to pull you all the way back out of the overbought zone. You really don't. Like if you were to close the week at 260, you'd be well out of the overbought zone right now. You know what I mean? Like it's not, because it's all relative. So this movement here, very strong. You haven't seen any weak movements at all. A weak move will give you a very powerful drive to any degree. It'll give you a very powerful drive down. You know, for example, let's just look at this real quick, just for an example, so I can show you what I'm talking about. It won't take much to pull out of the overbought zone. That's what I'm talking about. Look at this week. Look at how small that red week was there, right? It was a 9.5% week. It's not that small on a percentage term, but just in comparison to everything else. You look at the RSI, look at how much of a move down you got from here, right? From high to low, you got this movement down, okay? But your prior week, from here, from low to high, that was your move. So this was your move the prior week, and then this was the move when you moved down 9%. The prior week, you moved up 57%, and that's all you got to the upside, right? So you really don't need a lot of movement up on the RSI to get a lot of movement up on the price. You really don't need a lot of movement down on the price to get a lot of movement down on the RSI. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Anyways, I got nothing else for you guys. I'm just explaining things that might be pointless to explain. But in case anybody needs it, you know, the perspective here is that you're looking at this. Again, the perspective is, oh my God, it's super overbought. This is terrible. It's going to go down. I see something you don't know. No, that's not typically, almost always, in fact, whenever you get a 90 read in the RSI, you will get further drives. You will build out bearish divergence and then you crash. And on a weekly time frame, that's months. Bro, that is like March of 2026, you know, later than that, earlier than that, whatever, but months away before you get any kind of negative price action. That would be on a weekly basis, at least. That would be my expectation. And again, you don't need much to close out of the overbought zone. So to reset, it really wouldn't take much. But overall, you look fantastic. You're going to continue to grow. And I very much believe Zcash will see a, you know, anything from, personally, I believe it'll see a $5,000 to $10,000 price, and not really 5 to 10,000, not like a range. It's more like it will either directly stop at 5K or directly stop at 10K or somewhere in proximity to those levels. Anyways, I got nothing else. Hit the like button. Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.